And welcome back to Red and Blue. While the intense spotlight focuses on the former president, the current president flew to Minnesota this afternoon and delivered remarks at a power plant on shoring up domestic supply chains. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now from the White House. Good to see you, Ed. So as you pointed out earlier, you had this really fascinating split screen of the current president in Minnesota and the former president landing in New York, preparing for his arraignment tomorrow. How is the White House, how is Biden handling this Trump news?
As if it's nothing out of the ordinary and it doesn't affect their jobs at all here at the White House. This White House currently very much in sort of the Rose Garden strategy mode, trying to keep the president looking presidential, sounding presidential, focused on issues of importance to the country and to the world. This visit today to Minnesota, one of several that he, the First Lady, the Vice President, other cabinet secretaries continue to make, and what they call around here the year of implementation. Not a terribly sexy term, but one basically designed to say, if you want to have trust in government, this is the year in which all the things we spent the first 2 years sort of focused on getting done and passed in Congress are actually getting implemented. The checks are going out the door. The shovels are going into the ground. The companies who stand to benefit from federal dollars are making investments that lead to more jobs. And at the end of it all, as the reelection continues next year, the hope is that he can turn and say, look at all these things we did and how they're helping you get a job, your neighbor get a job, the roads paved, the airport rebuilt, the climate cleaner, etc. And so what they've been up to over the last several weeks, what they will be up to in the coming weeks, is all designed to just continue to look as presidential and professional and above the fray as possible. And if they can continue to do that, they feel like they're in good shape going into next year when eventually a Republican opponent, whoever it is chosen, and they go to the voters to let them decide.
Yeah, and kind of demonstrating that contrast. I mean, you mentioned the reelection bid. You have some new reporting, I understand, surrounding about when that actually may happen. What do we know about Biden's timeline here?
First, we were told it would come around Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Then we were told it would come at some point after the State of the Union address. Then some suggested it would happen this week, the beginning of the second quarter of the year, when they could start a big fundraising push and take all that bottled up, pent up ambition and excitement among Democrats eager to get started and have millions of dollars start rolling in. Now, we're told early, maybe midsummer, is when the president ultimately will make it official. And it's not so much a question of if at this point, just when. The calculation is there's no need for him to get in right now. He will not face a major Democratic Party official in some kind of a primary contest. There are nominal candidates running, but nobody that has the name ID or the ability to siphon off part of the party. And so the president knows he's got it, his and his alone. In this calendar year, the odd-numbered year, when you don't have a primary opponent, you don't need to be out there building an infrastructure. You just need to be raising money. And so at some point, a campaign apparatus will be established. The fundraising will begin. In the meantime, he has to make a series of decisions. When and where to announce, where to put this campaign's headquarters. Is it in Delaware? Is it in Philadelphia? Is it here in the Washington area? Who's the campaign manager who likely only focuses on the basics of hiring and logistics and schedules, not the broader strategic stuff that will be handled by some of his senior aides who work with him here in the West Wing? Where's the convention going to be held? Is it Atlanta, New York, or Chicago? Which of the super PACs that are out there or yet to be created are the ones that he can nominally bless as the ones that should handle certain aspects of the digital and television and radio advertising that needs to happen across the battleground states? And how much money will those groups be able to raise in order to do that? Something he doesn't have to worry about, but can sort of signal to the party, those are the ones you should be working with. And then how much money will he ultimately raise in order to get this campaign underway? One thing that's not in dispute anymore, and we should stop talking about based on conversations we've had, Vice President Harris will be there with him. The mentality is he's headed towards it, but there's absolutely no rush to do it. When the former president's being indicted tomorrow, when the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, who's allegedly the number 2, is still getting started, not even officially in the race yet, and apparently struggling based on the polls you may read. And while other Republicans are still toying with the idea of getting in, Democrats are happy to see him just sort of stand back and wait.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about that this morning because you have the indictment, obviously, and the arraignment coming down tomorrow, but you still have these two other major investigations that have yet to play out. So it makes sense, politically and logistically to let those play out on the Republican side. What would change for Biden once he does officially announce, or will his schedule, kind of look the same, balancing these presidential trips and also kind of using them as campaign trips?
I suspect it's going to get a little more pronounced about when and how he's traveling and who exactly is traveling with him and who's paying for it all. We saw a good example of it a few weeks ago when he went west to California to make 2 stops and then to Las Vegas. There was a good mix of official events, some foreign policy, some discussion about gun control, and then some discussion about the future of Medicare and Social Security. And in the midst of that, he held 2 fundraisers that raised more than $2 million for the Democratic National Committee. Got some decent local press. The national press tagged along, and some of the things he said were mentioned on the evening news. But that, to White House officials, is what they're looking for. That mix of political and official that leads to a mix of local and national coverage that makes him look presidential at a time when the Republicans are squabbling amongst themselves and maybe fighting over issues that are more important to the base than to the broader electorate. This is a White House focused on that broader electorate, knowing that they got the Democratic Party basically locked down. And it'll ultimately come down to a contest in Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, maybe North Carolina. Did I say Wisconsin? Because that definitely is one. And might as well say it twice because they'd like to go there.
They'd like to say it twice.
And that's essentially where they'll go in order to get this done, believing that that's the way to get to 270.
All right. Well, we will keep an eye on all of that. And as you say, too, still some time for others on the Republican side to announce as well. The year of implementation. Ed O'Keefe following that for us and the campaign to come. Thank you so much.